am going to be covering Komal's journey, and she is actually a physician, a resident physician in the US. Where is this Mayo Clinic? Where do you start working? Where do you end up moving to?
So I know when everyone thinks of US, they think of Chicago, they think of New York, they think of San Francisco. But Mayo Clinic is actually in this tiny town called Rochester in this cold state called Minnesota.
What happens when once your J1 ends, or like what is the process?
After you finish your residency, say you start looking for your jobs in your second or third year of residency. For J1, you have to do a waiver job. What that means is there are certain institutes, certain places who require physicians. There's a physician shortage, or these rural places. So you go and serve for 3 years in that waiver position.
And that people have a lot of hatred towards the medical system in the US. So, being an insider, what are your thoughts?
If we talk about the cons of the American healthcare system, it's mainly that it's expensive. It's very expensive to be a patient here. You don't know if insurance is going to cover it.
Hi everyone, I am Priya from It's Okay Yaar, and welcome back to another episode. We have Komal with us, and welcome Komal. How are you
Hey,
today?
thanks for having me. I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. And to everyone who's listening or watching, today I'm going to be covering Komal's journey, and she is actually a physician, a resident physician in the US, who's on a J1 visa. We often get questions on how do we break into this field, what happens, and Komal has a very interesting journey and how she navigated. She actually networked into this field and landed herself a full-time position. But that's just not what Komal's journey is about. Her husband is in the UK and he's a doctor, and they're figuring out how to make things work. So we'll end up covering a lot of that, and hopefully, with Komal's journey, you will definitely feel inspired and leave with a lot of tips, especially if you are looking to break into this field. So, welcome, Komal, and we are so excited that you're willing to share things with us.
That's a great introduction. Thank you.
So, Komal, I think I tried my best to summarize your journey, but talk to us a little bit about where are you from in India? Where are you right now? What are you pursuing? What were you doing in India? So, tell us a little bit more about your journey, and then we'll start deep diving.
Yeah, so I'm from like a semi-urban city in India, Solapur. Um, I grew up there, born and raised, school, medical school, luckily was from there. I always knew I wanted to come to US. I just knew it because my family was here. Some of my sisters had already moved here, cousins. And for healthcare, it was one of the best places to learn from. So I decided like I had to get here. After MBBS, I just started studying for these beast of exams called USMLEs. There are 3 exams, really long, really big exams. And while I was studying, I was prepared. I was working in India, like in.
So let me. I don't want to cut you off, but like help us understand a little bit more about what did you study in India,
Mhm.
like, and then what did you decide to study in the US?
Yeah. Okay. So in India, mainly, like everyone knows, when you reach that 12th standard mark, you have to pick either bio or math and then go with that if you're a science student. So I picked both for some reason because I don't know, torture. And I eventually decided that medicine is the correct way for me. So I did that and I got into medical school in India. I did my MBBS from there.
Okay.
I did 1 year of internship. And in MBBS, you don't have to pick a specialization, it's just training. So I just got trained there. And then I was just working as a regular, like in a hospital, in the ICU, stuff like that, clinics. While I was doing that, I prepared for the steps.
Okay, so you had finished your MBA, your MBBS, and you were kind of starting to work there, but you always knew you wanted to move to the US because you had your sisters here. You wanted to make sure that you're studying at the best place. Again, we can talk about that because the healthcare system in the US has comes with its own challenges if someone has
Challenges.
to
Yeah.
experience it. But of
Yeah.
course, from an education perspective, it's fantastic. So, how long did you start preparing, and what were the 3 exams that you started
Yeah.
preparing for?
Yeah, so I started preparing right when I got into internship. It's hard to like work odd hours, night shifts, day shifts, and study. So the preparation took, and to give the exams, it took about 2 to 3 years. I faced some setbacks where I had to do the exams a few times before I could finally get my results. So the whole process after completion of my MBBS took like 2 to 3 years, and COVID delayed my ability to give the exam too because the centers were closed.
Yeah.
Exam kept getting rescheduling, so I lost like about a year in the whole.
So
Um,
tell us the names of the exams that you give.
yeah, so there's this exam called United States Medical Licensing Exam. So these are three parts. First is USMLE Step 1, which covers most of your basic science subjects like pharmacology, pathology, microbiology. So you have to go back to all of those bugs that you read, the mechanism of action of the drugs. It's about 8 hour long exam, and the main resource that you use for that exam is UWorld, which is an online question bank, and then you can give the assessments. After you pass step 1, you can give step 2, or you can give step 2 before 2, because it's not like a
Got
step 1 you pass and then you give the step 2. You can give either or first. Generally people give step 1 first because it's helps while preparing for step 2. So for step 2, it's mainly clinical questions. So you get most of medicine, surgery, all of the third, fourth year questions like you do in MBBS. It's a 9 hour exam again, and the same U World Q Bank you have to use. I would say roughly the prep would take about, for each exam, anywhere from 4 to 6 months, depending on how solid your foundation is from your med school, or depending on how much you're able to put in every day while working, or if you're able to take a big study break and then just sit at home and study. But they're doable exams. They are very competitive. You do need a really high score. Step 1 is a pass or a fail exam. So you just need to pass it. When I gave it, you had a score, but now they
Okay.
changed it.
So it's a pass or fail. So it's step one and step two. Are those the only two things, or is there any?
No, but step 2, you require a score. The score generally, there's no cutoff because your application goes as a whole. The passing score is, I think, 210, but
Out
anywhere
of? Out
out
of?
of, there's no out of, because it's like a percentile based exam. So the highest I think a person has ever scored is maybe 270s,
Okay.
280s.
Okay.
But anywhere if you go above
To
230,
10.
210
230.
is passing, but 230, 240s, you just increase your chances, make your application more competitive.
Got it. So you could do the step two, you could have a good score. And if you have a good score greater than 230, then your options of all of the
Yeah,
colleges that you can look at in the US kind of increase.
kind of. And more than 230 is not even like a hard cutoff, because you have your research to back it up with, you have your other jobs. There's many other things to boost
Of
your
course, your entire
application.
application. Yep.
Yeah, so it just goes on becoming more competitive like that. And I wouldn't stick on the 230 as a cutoff, but it's like
It's
anywhere
kind of a
more
good
than,
to have like at the baseline, but you still need a
yeah,
lot of other things to build your profile and then kind of make
yeah,
sure you have a solid application.
solid application. And anywhere, in fact, these days it's even so competitive as 245.
Okay,
Still, people need a lot more.
got
Um,
it. So, talk to us about the universities or the colleges, or
yeah,
how do you like once you get that, do you start applying for all of these individually? Like, what does the process look like
yeah.
after your step one and step two?
Yeah, this is one of the most confusing process to exist. After you give step 1, step 2, there is another exam called step 3, which is a
Oh, okay.
2-day exam. And on day 1, you have some MCQs and some clinical cases. And on day 2, you have MCQs and stuff like that. So you can give step 3 only after you finish step
One
1
and
and
two.
step 2. And the exam is based in US. You can't give it anywhere else.
Okay.
Um, you don't need to have that exam before applying to universities, but if you give it, it's more competitive again.
Okay, so for example, if I'm trying to give step three, then I need at least a B1, B2 visa to come in
Yeah,
and be able to give an exam to make my application solid. Otherwise, I can keep applying after step two. But once, even
exactly.
if I end up getting into a university, I will have to come and give the step three.
Exactly. So, how it goes is after your step 1 and step 2, you can apply for the match. What we call our job search process is the match. Once you match, you have a job basically which is called residency, and then you have to give the step 3 anytime. So when you already have a job, you don't have to come on a B1 B2 because you'll be coming
Yeah.
on J1 or H1 and give step 3. But say you apply or you're far from applying and you still want to give step 3 before you uh, find a job, or don't find a job, don't apply, you have to get the tourist visa. And generally, the B1, B2 is people apply with this reason that, hey, I want to go and give step 3.
Got it. So again, for anyone who's listening, if you don't know what a B1, B2, or J1 or H1 is, I have all three videos that I'll link in the description box, so you can check that out. But Komal, what route did you end up picking? Did you give step 3 before? Did
Yeah.
you end up matching? Like, what did you end up doing?
Yeah, so mine was a little different. I already had a B1, B2 from when I had visited my sisters when I was in med school. So that was the thought process was, when you are enrolled in a college or a university, visa rejection chances are lower. If you're in India and you're enrolled in, say, a college, it's less likely they may reject your visa because they know you're going to come back
Yep.
and finish your degree. So I had that. And then I didn't,
So
yeah,
you came here on B1, B2 and gave your step 3?
yes.
Okay.
So I came here for my clinical rotations, which is like almost like an internship, where you shadow doctors in a hospital. You get like an intern experience in the US, which is also a part of the application. You need 3 letters of recommendation from US based physicians, extremely preferred. Yes, you can use your Indian letters, but it is preferred that you come here, experience the healthcare system here, be a part of it, see how they see their patients, how the hospital runs. So that's what I did. 1 year, I just came for rotations and gave my step 3 on the tourist visa.
Got it. Okay, so like let's do some timelines. Like you explained a lot of things. Let's talk about when you finished your MBBS in India, when you gave your step 1 and 2,
Yeah.
and what year you came and did your step 3 and did your rotation in the US. So can you walk us through that?
Yeah. So my timeline is a painful one because I finished in 2018. Then I gave step
So
1
2018, what did you finish your MBBS? Okay.
BDS. And then right away I had given step 1. My CK kept on getting pushed back by prep time, by COVID, and eventually I was able to finish it in 2021. So
Okay.
and I had my score report delayed, my computer crashed, so I had to give it again. So I had to give that exam like a couple of times before I actually had my final score.
So
So,
2018, you finished your MBBS in
yes,
India, and 2021, 2018 is when you give your step
step
one,
one.
but your CK, which is your step 2, is like happening in 2021. And what
Yeah.
year do you come here in the US for your rotation and your step 3?
Yeah. So right after I finished my step 2, I couldn't wait because COVID was making travel very hard. Direct entry to US was banned. So I went to Egypt. That's when I quarantined in Egypt for 15 days. And Egypt wasn't one of the red flag countries that wasn't allowed to enter US. So
So
after
this
the
was in
quarantine, it was in
2021?
2021.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, it's such a blur at this point. Like, I may have to double check, but yeah, it was
Okay.
2021. And then I was able to go get my clinical experience in the US and give step 3.
Okay.
It
So
was the second half of 2021.
second, so 2021, you do your CK, then you go to Egypt to quarantine, then you come to the US. Second half of 2021 is when you start your internship, and then you do your step 3.
3.
Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay, so we are in 2021 and you've kind of done that internship experience, and now do you go back to India for to figure out your visa? Like, how does it work?
Yeah. So when I was in US, I was in full hustle mode. Like, I'm not gonna waste 1 minute on anything else. So I did my rotations, did my step 3, and started cold emailing for jobs while I was there, because I think it helps if
Yeah.
you're in the same time zone. And um, they know that you're in the US already, even for a little bit, it helps a lot. So I used to send out like hundreds of emails every day to all these big institutes like Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard, where you just like go through the faculty list on the website and send them your CV and say, hey, I'm interested in a research position and I'm willing to be on a J1. I'm willing to be unpaid initially. So I did that for months and months and months. I used to do it from India too, but I never had a breakthrough. But once I was here, I sent out those emails, and one professor uh, who was in family medicine saw my email and gave me an interview, and which was while I was doing my rotation in family medicine. So that sort of helped strengthen my application. And when I was in the US, I was offered that position to switch to a J1 research and move to the
Oh,
US for my research fellowship.
so of all the places you emailed, who ended up picking that? Like what
It was Mayo
institute?
Clinic.
So it was Mayo Clinic. So you
Yeah.
start. So do you currently work with Mayo Clinic?
I mean we just work on research, but
Okay.
no, I don't do my residency there.
Okay, so we'll get into that. So now you are here and you did all the hustling and networking and cold emailing, and you landed a match or a research position with the Mayo Clinic through this professor, and
Yeah.
he recommended you can move to J1. So you go back to India to now figure out your J1 application,
Yeah.
and so you're moving back to India when into 2022.
2022
Okay,
was when I went back.
and how long was your J1 process from there? Like, what did it like? And everything about J1. Anyone who's watching, I have a whole video. Please watch that. But we'll quickly spend
Yeah.
time understanding Komal's journey,
So for J1, you need a sponsor institute,
which
basically
you
a
had, which you got.
which,
Okay,
yeah, I had that. And if it is an unpaid position, you need to show financial proof that you have enough to sustain yourself. And invitation letter. It was a pretty straightforward process.
correct. Yeah.
Just made the DS 160, got the visa appointment. They were able to get an emergency appointment when there was a lot of backlog. So I got the emergency visa appointment, went for the appointment, did the interview. The interview was very straightforward. And
So you are here in 2022. You
in
got your
India.
J1 visa. Okay, a few things. Where did you do your internship? I don't think we covered that while you were here in 2021.
Yeah, in 2021, actually, I was in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Oh, and but where was it exactly? Where
It
you
was Christ Hospital,
Christ Hospital?
Yeah, the one in Jersey City.
Okay, the Christ Hospital in Jersey City is where you did
Yeah,
your internship. Now you
there were
have
a couple. So the internships were like monthly basis. One
okay.
was, yeah, so there were like two, three places, different hospitals, clinics. You just go in and ask the doctor, hey, can I please be with you? And then they
Uh,
offer you, yeah, like,
okay,
you
that's
just go.
amazing.
Again, for that also, there was a lot of hustling. Like you
Hustling, you just
around.
can't. Yeah. I think, yes, everything that I'm hearing about your journey is like persistence and hustling is just the theme to make sure that you want this and you will do every single thing to get it.
Thing to get.
So, okay, you do a couple of internships, 2022, this professor, you're back on a J1 visa. So where is this Mayo Clinic? Where do you start working? Where do you end up moving to?
So I know when everyone thinks of US, they think of Chicago, they think of New York, they think of San Francisco. But Mayo Clinic is actually in this tiny town called Rochester in this cold state called Minnesota.
Yes. So
So
you
that's
moved to
it.
Minnesota, yeah, and what? Oh wow. Okay, so you moved to Minnesota, and
Yeah.
you're do like, did you know anyone there? Like, what was your experience like? You come
Yeah.
in and
Yeah, I didn't know anyone, but my sisters live in the Northeast. So I went there and then flew to Minnesota. I didn't know anyone there. Like, I know there are many people doing what I do there, but I didn't have direct contact with many of them. Maybe my mentor, one of the mentors, introduced me to a girl who was already there. So she kind of helped with the house search process, but I personally didn't know anyone.
okay, so you move here in 2022 to Rochester, Minnesota, and you start your research assistants. Tell us later about it. Like, how do you end up
Yeah.
being a resident physician? Where do you end up moving? Because you're in Arkansas today. So, talk to us about the journey from Minnesota to Arkansas and how you changed that.
Yeah, so in Rochester and Mayo, my job was mainly research. I was involved in a couple of great studies. It involved like study designing, data collection, writing the papers, lit review. Initially for the first 6 months, it started as an internship. They said if we like your work, we'll keep you on. So in the first 6 months, again, I had to like prove myself, over deliver many times from the expectation, and then they converted it to a paid position. But generally, it doesn't happen. Anyone who comes to the US as a physician to do research has to be unpaid for a year. And
Okay.
that's just normal for us, that we're just happy to be here and be on those papers. So it's a very acceptable normal thing that our internship or our research are all unpaid. And in fact, sometimes for some of these rotations, we have to
Oh
pay
wow.
to
Oh
get
wow. So did so but for in your case you didn't end up you
I
didn't
didn't
have
have
to pay. You ended up in a couple of months you were able to convert that into a paid position and
paid.
you're still in Rochester.
No, so I did, yeah. So I was there, and then I moved there in April. So April to September is the time you really build your CV over
So
there.
April 22 to September 22 you are in Rochester building your CV as a research assistant
Doing
and figuring
research.
out how to move to a paid
Yeah.
position.
Yeah. And then October hit and my life started coming together, I think. I applied for the match. So this is the part where you apply for the match. So match is a process where all these physicians, now that they've completed their step one, step two, they have their 3 letters of recommendation, they have research as optional, but they have it. So it's an online application that you submit all your information, and the system, you have to pick the universities you can apply on their system and apply for the match. The match means that you apply coldly to
A lot
n
of
number
it.
of programs, like say 150. So we apply for maybe say 150 hospitals. Sometimes people apply for 200, 300 hospitals. Again, it's a very expensive process. You spend up to $2,000 to $3,000 just applying to these places
Oh
because the
wow.
application has a fee.
Got it. Okay. So you do that and then did you
In
end up getting
September,
matched at
I did.
Arkansas? Okay.
Yes. So then I ended up matching into my current residency program, and the residency starts in June 2023, which was
Oh, okay.
last.
Until then, you continued
Until
as your research assistant, and it was a paid position for
it
you.
was.
And then you moved to Arkansas. So, where in Arkansas, like, are you doing your residency? Like, if you don't
You
mind
know this
sharing.
little town called Little Rock?
Okay,
There.
okay, okay. So you
No,
get
most
matched.
people wouldn't know. Yeah.
Okay, so that is your whole journey in terms of how you be a resident physician. So, talk to us a little bit more about what is next. Like, how does this work? Because I know for J1, there is a timeline, right? Like,
Yes.
what happens when once your J1 ends, or like, what is the
Yeah.
process?
So my residency is 3 years. Depending on your branch, it can be 4 years, 5 years, sorry. So after you finish your residency, say you start looking for your jobs in your second or third year of residency. For J1, you have to do a waiver job. What that means is there are certain institutes, certain places who require physicians. There's a physician shortage, or these rural places. So you go and serve for 3 years in that waiver position. So you're bound to that employer who will help file your H1 and start your green card process. But generally, it's for you just look through various
So,
organizations, and
so you
there's a
eventually will end up moving to an H1B, but that's how the process, your journey will be from J1 to H1B if you find a waiver who can
waiver
do
for
that.
3 years.
So you are in family medicine, you are doing that, right? And then you still have 3 more years remaining, and in that.
Oh, thank God, no. 1.5 year remaining.
Okay, one and a half year remaining, and in the process, you will figure out next steps, a waiver, and then eventually H1. So, okay, that's the journey. No, thank you so much for sharing. I think for anyone who is watching, will end up learning a lot from this. But I have a few questions just about you. Like, of course, your journey is so much about persistent hustling, like exactly knowing what you are looking to do, like not being afraid to cold email, like
Yeah.
figuring out every single thing. But talk to us. I'm sure you have done your internship at the and experienced the medical system in India. You experienced internship and the medical system in the US. I'm sure you very much understand that people have a lot of hatred towards the medical system in the US. So being an insider, what are your thoughts? Like, what is good, what is bad? How would you compare the two? Just give us your thoughts. I think that would be a great closing.
Yeah, it's very conflicting, honestly, for me to give a black and white answer because there is not one, and there's pros and cons to both. If we talk about the cons of the American healthcare system, it's mainly that from a patient's perspective, it's expensive. It's very expensive to be a patient here. You don't know if insurance is going to cover it. All
And you
these
can't get any appointments. I think I have experienced it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can never get an appointment in this country.
exactly that, yeah, you never get an appointment. The wait time is months and months. It's really hard to get in to see a specialist, sometimes even for years. Like if you see derm books out for a year. Um so that's the biggest con from the patient side. From a physician perspective, I like it
Okay.
because it is pretty systematic. You have all the resources at your fingertip. It's very well compensated. You get to choose and pick your hours. So, from a physician's perspective, it's not a bad country to be in.
So is it? Yeah, and I think even, yeah, just hearing you speak a little bit, and I know it's hard to make these blanket statements, but would you agree that the Indian medical system is patient first, and the US medical system is like physician first, which is why I think the myth happens. Or it's, I know it's a hard comment to make, but I feel like it's so easy to get into anything in India.
It is. So, yes, the specialist, it's very easy to just go into any clinic in India and just see them. Here, yes, that is very tedious, but I wouldn't even say it's physician first, it's an insurance first.
It's an
Like they
insurance. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's a nice way to put it. It's an insurance first, and if we are in a country which
they're
is
at their mercy.
okay, no, that's a good way to think about it. And I definitely, for anyone who's watching, two more questions I have for you. So I know, for you mentioned your research assistant position is paid. When you go do your residency, which is right now, do you also get paid at
Yes,
this point?
thank
Okay.
God.
And then for waiver, when you
It's
apply, it will
minimum
be a
wage.
job. It's minimum wage, but it is something. Oh, okay. And then for waiver is when you will start like getting, like, it's a proper full-time job
Attending.
and an attending, and so you end up getting.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I think this was really great. But for closing, like, I know we didn't get to touch a lot about it, but you're doing all of this. You got married earlier this year. Your husband is in UK and he's in a similar profession. What
Yeah.
is next for Komal, and how are you all planning to make it work?
Yeah, he is also doing what I did. So he's following this route of giving the exams and
Exams.
getting here. He in India he did orthopedics.
He did
So
orthopedics.
yeah, so that's the path we'll try to
So
get on.
he will be doing the step one, step two, like
He
in the
did it.
next.
He
Okay.
finished step one and step two. I
Ah.
can't believe how he already finished it. He did it like that. Like,
Oh,
really.
fantastic. So
I could
it's
do
only
it.
a matter of time till you all are going to figure out and make it. I'm sure, like, I think just talking to you and hearing your story, I feel you have the optimism, you have the drive, you have the passion, you have the hustle. I think it's everything that
All
will,
coming together.
yeah, it will all come together. And any, like for everyone who's watching, we always say the first couple of years are always hard in the US. It's never rosy for anyone, no matter who you are, and then it starts getting better, and your story is such a great example. Any closing thoughts before I wrap this up?
Yeah, I just looked at your journey and I could see some similarities here and there. So it just felt nice talking to you. I think for anyone from India, young doctors who feel like they want to leave the country, want to move here, it is not as simple as like giving the NEET and getting a PG seat. Tracking the NEET is hard. It's so hard. And equally hard is coming to the US, but even there's many pieces of the puzzle. So just remember to take one step at a time and not get overwhelmed at looking at like, hey, I have to do this. How can I do it? Just one step at a time, and before you know it, you've crossed the road.
Oh my gosh, that is such a nice message. And if I may summarize it, once you've done your MBBS in India, do your step one, step two, figure out your step three. If possible, come here, give the exam so that you have a stronger application. Hustle, 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 get your internships, land a research assistant position. If possible, make it paid, then figure out a match program and then go through the journey. But yes, I think
It's
what
easy.
your message was perfect, like one step at a time, and if
True.
you're looking to move, you will make it happen. And thank you so much, Komal, for sharing your journey and reaching out. I know the scheduling has been a challenge, but I'm so glad that
We made it.
we made it work. And for everyone, if things aren't going your way, remember they're going to eventually turn around, and it's okay. Yaar. Until next time, we will come back with another segment. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll try to make sure I work with Komal and answer as many as I can. The idea is to make sure that you feel comfortable pursuing a field that there is not much information about. So hopefully this gives you a starting point. Thank you so much, Komal. I hope you have a wonderful day and you get some time off, hopefully for Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thank you for
Thanksgiving.
having
Have a great
me.
day. Okay,
Bye.
bye.